GWX. We are live breaking down the upcoming snow to expect this week. We will have a clipper on Wednesday, and then we're tracking further snow later this week as well. We are live on YouTube and X. I appreciate everybody coming in here, rewatching the stream, or if you're tuning in just now, very much appreciated. And without further ado, let's get started here. Wait for people to filter in and let's get set up. Let's have a fun time here breaking down what we all love. It's the reason you're here. So appreciate everybody here. Pull up the chat here. Is DC possible to get frozen precipitation? I would not favor DC upcoming here, but we'll talk about further in depth my thoughts about. I don't think the Mid-Atlantic overall is out of play here, just in general, but let's get a chat pulled up here. But we will talk about Mid-Atlantic and Northeast for sure, Jack. Thumbnail going. Let's get our pen tool cooking. How we doing, everybody? How we doing? Just waiting for people to filter in here on this fabulous Sunday night here. Maybe some people watching NFL earlier, maybe not. I'm personally not a fan of either teams left, but should be a fun Super Bowl. Alrighty. Letting people get filtered in. How are we doing? How are we doing, everybody? Make sure Tom's Bomb Channel. We're doing fantastic. Fabulous Sunday night here. Anytime we're breaking down the weather, it is always a blast, in my opinion, at least. At least for me, it is. I think it's gonna be we're gonna have some busy times upcoming here, so I'm excited. I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you guys, but I am pretty ecstatic here with how we're doing. December 2019. I remember that one. I'm assuming you're not talking about December 2020. And if you were referring to December 2019, this one's a little bit different than 2019 one, but does that zoom in? No. You want to zoom in. December 2019, actually, fun fact about that one. I actually saw, not too rare can someone ever say they were in a snowstorm. The same snowstorm that hit the West Coast and the East Coast. So December 2019, that snowstorm, I was in Oregon at the time. I think right after Thanksgiving. And that system produced, I saw like 8 to 10 inches of snow there. Driving through to get there to the airport and over through the mountains in Oregon, and then in the East Coast, I came back home here in Massachusetts and received, I think, about like 16, 17, 18 inches of snow, something like that, 15 to 18 inches of snow. Then when I came back home, and obviously Albany had, massive snow for that one. I think they had like 20, 25 inches. It was a widespread, like 1 to 2 feet for a lot of the Northeast. So that was a fun one. I don't see the same similarities quite. I see we'll talk about this one. It reminds me of a combination of multiple, and I would have to look a little bit closer at one of them that was more recent. But yeah, let's get started here. Welcome everybody. Again, we are live breaking down. We have 2 systems we're tracking this week. We have snow on Wednesday that we're tracking, and we also have snow. Um, well, depends on where you live, maybe for the next one, but there is another storm I'm tracking down the line here for uh, this weekend, later this weekend as well, potentially down the line. You can see what's on the map there, big old upper level low, which we will be tracking. Probably, I think this will definitely become the topic of discussion for sure for many this week. Anytime you drop that big of a bowling ball into the over Connus, things get pretty interesting. But here's what we got going on here. So we have a Clipper system that, again, we talk about Clipper systems. We're talking about that northern stream associated with very deep, rich, cold air diving in. And, this is pretty unique here. We're actually getting, zoom back a little bit more. Zoom back a little bit more so you can see where our piece is coming in, where our piece came in from, directly from the Arctic, man. This is diving over this western ridge, and a little bit almost pulling in. I did not want to do that. Pulling in a lobe of our polar vortex. You can see here, this is diving down over this big, 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 big western ridge here. Look at this thing, massive western ridge here over western Canada. We're gonna need a little bit bigger of a color than that so you can see big western ridge here over Canada, and you can see this is too strong for something to come sit in and ride up the east coast here, and configuration with a lack of stream separation as well as the other thing. But you can see, look how deep your height, look at that 480 height line. So deep, deep. Again, we're not getting rid of the cold air this week. Deep, deep, deep Arctic cold air in place here. So this sits around and this moves through, right? And this could produce some snow squalls across upstate New York, maybe get into New York City, southern New England. Probably will get into northern PA. This would be on Tuesday morning to Tuesday afternoon. I would keep an eye on some potential for that, for some snow squalls during that time. Uh, Ferdinand, how you doing? How you doing, my man? Um, I'm doing great, thank you. So, and then this Clipper dives in on the other side. So we have really deep Arctic cold air in place out ahead of this system. Super cold Arctic air in place. It is going to be very cold. Tuesday morning, Tuesday for sure. And then, so our system then, you can see it right here. This is where we start looking at this big old elongated piece of upper level energy here. Kind of gets strung out. From this, big old trough that digs into Alaska here, and this big western ridge out here covering part western U.S. and out in the Pacific here. And then under that slides a cutoff low, and that is a preview to what we're going to be discussing next as well, which that might be the bigger item on the menu down the line. We'll talk about again. We're kind of previewing some of that. It definitely has my interest for sure. And so this then comes on in behind. You can see then we do amplify this just a little bit. We do get a little bit of dig here. So it's not just directly diving down. You can see this comes in, it's able to dig just a little bit and then slides out here, this strung out piece of vorticity here at 500 millibars we're looking at, and this slides out. And so this moves in here. And so we look at Tuesday night across upstate New York. And then as we get into Wednesday here, that's when the system starts to move into New England, southern and central New England is the focus, in my opinion, with this system. Maybe some of northern, farther northern New England as well. Again, New England's not massive, so some of those differences can be pretty minor. But in general, this moves through, and we can zoom back in again, just like the paint the picture. But again, the confluence from the previous system kind of sets the stage for where this tracks. You can see this isn't going to be able to just cut across. This being such a strong, this is really strong. This is actually going to get into the 970s. And look at that, 477, I think this says. I mean, deep, deep Arctic cold air. That's good. That's going to be associated with that system. And this again sets the stage, and right in the heels and behind it comes this Clipper system, and that is what sets the stage for some snowfall here. And the timing of this is around Wednesday, maybe into Thursday morning as well. Maybe there could be some leftover. There's a nuance with this system that's, it's not just a regular Clipper. We've actually had a couple of these that are not regular Clippers. We have, had some other ones that more Clipper-like. Maybe we've had quite a few of them actually this year, but this one is not. It's not 100% normal. It's not like, I'm not trying to make it to be some super powered. No, it's nothing. It's not crazy. It's just there is a little bit of nuance. It's not just, boom, in and out, the thing dives in and out. There is some nuance, maybe some IVT ocean enhancement associated with this as well. So talk about that. You can see because watch what happens. This digs a little bit and it's actually going to interact a little bit with that boundary you can see that sets up there. So there's going to be there is going to be some amplification in this process. And it's going to be a strengthening storm as it slides out, but so much confluence, the flow is still very progressive and fast. So this thing does have to slide out. It's unable to amplify into a storm, and then that kind of sets the stage for what happens behind that. And yeah, the upper level energy, don't get deceived by the P-type maps. The upper level energy very strong and behind. And again, we're going to talk about that system very much so. And so this system comes in, moves through. There's, doesn't matter what model you look at. GFS and Euro are very similar right now. So we don't have too much model disagreement for the moment. As you can see, Euro's slightly faster, but again, general orientation is pretty similar. And, the difference in these two actually plays more of a factor for this weekend rather than this system as much. But again, you just have enough, especially we'll be focusing on some mid levels too, a strong upper level energy driven. But moisture wise, you're not going to need to be saturated in the upper levels here because we're going to have deep Arctic cold air. So mid level lift is definitely going to be important. You can see there is going to be some that, but then you can see there is a little bit more that still has to move through. That wasn't sorry. There is some mid-level lift present, so not amazing, but there will be likely, a period, a good maybe 3 to 5 hour period of where, there is some stronger lift associated in that, and then probably some lighter snow, and then maybe a second batch that has to move through later Wednesday night to keep an eye on. That would be kind of the still potential for, even though the main bulk batch is offshore, you can kind of see here on the P-type map, still a little bit left. We can zoom in a little bit more to the United States. We'll zoom here to the eastern US, and you can see there's just a little bit more that still has to come through. You see that main batch comes through, and then maybe a little bit more. You can see that it's a little bit of an inverted trough, almost coastal enhancement, still more dynamics that have to move through, and that could continue to persist some light, maybe even moderate snowfall at times. And that timing would be Wednesday night. Then Wednesday morning is when this moves through a lot of the area. Tuesday night into upstate New York is when it starts moving through in Pennsylvania. And this, again, pretty solid, 9990 millibar system moves through here and then starts to develop further offshore. But too late to really make some significant impact of a winter weather storm, so to say. So again, probably, you see a little bit of rain. That maybe that I wouldn't worry too much about any rain really for this system. Pretty much, it's going to be we should be pretty cold, and anything, if it were to be rain, it would be well after pretty much the bulk of the storm has moved through. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I know the RGM showed a little bit of a mixed bag towards the end of the system, but especially for the first batch, we're going to be pretty good. You can see GFS, you can look at the P-type map here, generally about the same thing, a little bit beefier on the front end, and you can see that inverted trough. It gets kind of messy then after that, maybe a little bit of lake enhancement as well for upstate in Pennsylvania, for upstate New York and Pennsylvania, so it's something to keep an eye on there. But again, for the more of the focus here, again, is across this region. This is kind of where I'm hinting at here. This is kind of the focus, in my opinion. I don't think New York City, maybe some light snow flurries they're able to cash in on. I'm not really too big on there. Same with coastal Connecticut. I don't think you're going to be able to get much out of this system. I think the focus is really probably will be north of 84 across northern Rhode Island, and then we'll kind of, this is diving down the orientation, so we'll kind of work like this, kind of more so. So we'll be able, I think, to be able to get a good amount of southeastern Massachusetts, but I would still favor north of the border for the heaviest tolls potentially. And again, I think it's a 2 to 5, 3 to 6. Originally, I thought maybe it could be a little bit, a little bit more 3 to 6, but a little bit lack of consolidation based on where models were at least currently with guidance compared to a couple days ago. So I'll lean more on the 2 to 5 side. I think ratios are going to be pretty solid. So maybe we'll see models pick up on that, maybe not. But especially in the beginning part, the first half of this system, ratios are going to be fantastic in the beginning here, and we can kind of peep that um, on the NAM 3K briefly, just so we can get a not necessarily. Well, I mean, you can I guess get an idea for where the NAM is with the system as well, but just to get a better idea of ratios, especially in the beginning. And again, my point is you're not going to be need to be saturated here in the upper levels. I'll find something over in Massachusetts here, and you can see, um, you know, see good upper level energy present, right? But not a ton on this particular sounding, but there is some decent um, left here in the mid levels. But notice here from the top of the dendritic growth zone down, which is where that -20 we look at, right below 600 millibars, you're very well saturated in the dendritic growth zone. Maybe I would prefer to be just a little bit more saturated here on this specific sounding, but you can see in the dendritic growth zone, you're pretty well saturated all the way down from there to the surface. You don't need to be saturated here. Your green line is your dew point, your red line is your temperature. Um, and you can see those are pretty close together from the top of your dendritic growth zone, which is where your snowflake production zone happens. That's where your the action starts for your snowflakes to be made there, and you just need to be saturated from that point on. So from where your snowflakes are made, that's where you need to be. Uh, that snowflake production zone to the surface, that's where you need to be saturated. And you're actually pretty well decently saturated in the upper levels on this beginning of the sounding here. And you can see 18 degrees and snowing, you're going to have very, very good ratios. At that point, you can see here this a little bit beefier on the lift here. Look at that. There's some pretty decent lift here on this sounding. Nearly -1 omega here, and you're well saturated on this sounding too. You are a few degrees apart at the surface, but you're pretty well saturated here. So you could actually get some pretty decent rates, especially on that front end batch that comes in Wednesday morning. So I'd expect, and you can see that across upstate New York as well. You can take a look here. Again, pretty well saturated, not a ton of lift actually in this sounding. So not great, maybe not great dendrites, but you are well saturated in your dendritic growth zone. And you are here, some elevation you can see as well. So pretty good, pretty well saturated from the mid levels down to lower levels. And that's why as it keeps moving through, there's going to be an opportunity. You can see not as well saturated on that sounding, but as it does move through, there's going to be an opportunity for. There you are. You can see maybe a little bit of lake enhancement, possibly hard to say, but you will get a little bit warmer throughout the duration of the system. But again, you're still going to be a higher ratio event. You can get an idea here. Look at Southeast Mass. Great snow sounding right here. It's actually pretty good. Um, Again, top of your dendritic growth zone, pretty well saturated all the way from the top bottom down, 22 degrees. So this is going to be a high ratio snow, not just for interior, but also for southeastern Mass, for Boston, Cape Ann, South Shore. This should be a pretty well. We can take a South Shore sounding to confirm here, and look at that high ratio snow. Your winds are not coming off the ocean here, as you can see, and that's a pretty good snow sounding. Actually, you're probably a little bit of enhancement off the ocean at that point as well, even though your winds aren't necessarily coming off the ocean. Being closer to the moisture source will not hurt in this case, and you're very well saturated in the sounding as well. Again, very solid snow soundings here on some of these, but it could probably actually be some heavy snow right there on that sounding. So maybe a brief period of moderate to heavy snow during Wednesday morning. And then, the rest of it will be lighter snow, maybe a break even comes through. And then Wednesday evening, Wednesday PM, Wednesday night, um, you get a little bit more to come through there, and you can kind of see the GFS, kind of depict that there a little bit. You can see a little bit more to come through. Some of these soundings will be probably pretty messy, so maybe not too good, but you can kind of get a little bit of a picture. So not as great ratios now on the backside, but that front end, especially, during when this moves through it again, it'll move through pretty quick. But you'll be able to stack up. I think a general 1 to 3, 2 to 5 inches. I think a general 2 to 5 is where I stand right now. But a good amount of 1 to 3 from here from southern. Probably in this area here, northward is where if I had to take a guess. probably confined into this area if I had to go with a bet right now, just a general idea, but give you a rough idea. I think Wednesday Clipper gives 3 to 6 for the Berks. Yeah, there's going to be some upslope after this moves through for sure. Um, this week there will be upslope potential. So, uh, even before the storm. So there's going to be some opportunities here for higher elevations here in Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, Maine, and in the Berkshires. They'll be able to get some. They got some snow as well. Even before and after the Clipper system. But those are the general thoughts I have right now with that system. General idea, lay the groundwork for kind of what to expect there. But should be some good snowfall, able to help enhance the snowpack again. Again, it should be pretty cold throughout much of this week still, even after the system moves through. Kind of get an idea that cold air. We're going to be locked into that cold air after the system moves through for sure. You can see we don't even, some places may not get out of the teens on Thursday. Friday, maybe a little bit warmer, but that could be storm driven as well. So I'd use a little bit of caution on that. But it's going to be either near average or below average for the most part for this week here. So let's slide back now. So we're covering again the groundwork for the Clipper system. Again, I think a general, maybe a widespread 1 to 3, 1 to 4, but and I think there's going to be a good general area of 2 to 5 inches. Some isolated higher totals, especially with elevation. It's not elevation dependent storm, but especially with elevation, could be able to make out a little bit more with the system here. Tuesday night through Wednesday night is the time frame for that as well. So now, if I slide back here to classic weather bell, how we doing, everybody? Just checking in again, making sure y'all are having an enjoyable Sunday night here now, technically, Monday morning. Almost done with February. It was about this point also, anniversary of the Blizzard of 2015. It was about this point where that band was just starting getting set up here. So definitely wish I had a little bit more appreciation for what was happening at that point. Was not as interested in some of this stuff. I mean, very interested, but they don't have the knowledge I do now to stay up all night and follow the snowstorms. But for those of you that did get hit by the Blizzard of 2015, again, I have the radar loop up here. Where on my YouTube? Somewhere. There we go. Full radar loop from start to finish here of the Blizzard of 2015 NWS Boston radar site. So I do have that. And I do also have Blizzard of 2015 reanalysis. If any of you are interested in that, that is also on my YouTube pages. You could just search up Blizzard of 2015 into my YouTube search. And if you're interested in that, then you will get the reanalysis. The way we break down a storm prior, we broke it down after. So if any of you are also interested in that, we also have other reanalyses of the Blizzard of 2021 and the Blizzard of 2022 as well for those interested. But here's the next system that comes through. So this is the storm that is kind of starting to linger here on WX Twitter. Down the weekend storm. All right, just send it. Tweet out. Hit that like if you're on YouTube. It's very much appreciated. It's a little shameless plug right there. But so here's the next system that kind of sets the stage here. So we zoom back out to North America. For the general specifics, again, it doesn't really matter what model you choose, even though they're different. The general idea we can kind of break down with really any model here. So again, that's their Clipper. You can see out in the Northeast. Here's your Clipper. So this dives in, really cold air comes in behind it here. You can see we'll start to see then a southeast ridge develop in behind the system as well as it starts to depart. You'll notice those height lines start to rise. We'll take a peek here. You can see that southeast ridge then start to kind of develop here. at 591. So we do have southeast ridge present. So opportunity for it to pull moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico with any system that comes across. And this is your cutoff low here. So again, it's not tapping into a lot of cold air quite yet. This thing has been displaced, cut off for days. So it's cold. It's right off the Pacific. Its cold air source is not it's not fantastic at this point, but so it's not going to originally likely have cold air to work with originally. But what does happen here is you can see that confluence out ahead of the system. There is cold air in place over the northeast at this point. And like we talked about, we're going to remain cold this week. We're going to remain average to slightly below average. And so what we'll see is this cutoff low will be a very strong upper level lower. I've been talking about this for about maybe 5-6 days, kind of keeping an eye on this system here, saying whenever this is ready to get injected to the flow, I think this is a storm to be concerned with. You saw models like 4 days ago, maybe, they were showing this B or four, this showing this thing all the way up here. I was like, listen, I've seen how this kind of how we've shaped up here. I'm not gonna quite believe that we're gonna be able to go that far north with this system. Maybe we could see some pretty drastic changes that could allow that. There is theoretically a possibility where if you were to hold this back so much, and you were to completely get this confluence out of the way, then maybe you could see this come pretty far north, or vice versa. If you were to slide this so far north before the confluence can press as much, then maybe. But the general specifics are starting to kind of get set in stone here, and the system's already ashore. So we're talking about a system, 6 days from now, maybe or so, give or take. It's already ashore. So this thing is over California right now. She saw a special weather statement over Malibu, not for fire this time, but for hail. So that was some interesting weather, some actual precipitation going on out there in California right now. Much needed, to say the least, to stop the wildfire threat for sure, which is good for them. But this system is also going to work here. It drops down, and then it starts tapping into the Gulf of Mexico. And here you can start seeing that moisture drive up from the system. Now, here's where the questions start coming for me. Here's where the questions start coming, right? We start driving in this moisture, right? We start tapping into the Gulf of Mexico, even the Pacific here. We're pulling in moisture to the system. What does the orientation of this look like? Is this at this point on around, so once we start getting towards Thursday, is this tighter wrapped further west, more consolidated? You can see on some of these more recent runs, the past couple of runs today, you saw a little bit more dragged out with just talking about the GFS specifically, and dragging out some of this precip more, not wrapping in as much, kind of a more sheared out system, spread out system. Vorticity getting kind of sheared out across, and you're unable to actually consolidate. This is still, that's a very strong upper level low, but again, at this point, not tapping into cold air, and the orientation of the confluence will matter as well, in the position and where our storm is located. That will definitely play a huge impact too. So that if this is further west, this will have less influence from this confluence, and it's going to be able to hold more of this convection closer. You'll see a tighter wrap, you'll see a stronger storm. There'll be more cold air, and better timed up for the system, to be more impactful. What's an example of that? Go to about 12Z today, which you saw that magical, beautiful run. Obviously, look at where your storm is. You see that OZ versus 12Z. You can see still both very strong upper level energy profiles, but OZ further out ahead, further east. So we'll see again the strength of our southeast ridge here, a stronger ridge. Would be able to have more influence. It would likely have a little bit tighter wrap, force this thing a little bit further, either west or northwest, or both, or west or north, or both potentially. So there's definitely some concern there. So when I look at this upper level energy profile, I look at that. That's a strong, and it just gets so the timing on this run, it kind of gets caught in between your 12Z and 18Z. So it kind of just gets completely sheared out almost, and you're not able to get really. See on the P-type map, you're not really able to get that much snow, so it doesn't look as pretty on the P-type map. But I'm telling you, this is a strong upper level energy piece we're working with here, and it's really going to come down to the timing though. So this is not by any means. I'm not looking at this as a slam dunk right now. Again, I don't really look at too much as a slam dunk, but this in particular, for me, I look at this and this is definitely not at the moment slam dunk definite winter storm setup, but there's definitely potential here for this to be a significant winter storm, to say the least, a significant one, a big time impactful one. There's definitely that potential here. And again, it will depend on the timing, the location of where a piece is set up. Again, like we talked about, slide to a slightly different model here. We look at the Canadian OZ Euro should be starting to come out here. So we'll be able to peek at that in a second. You can see Canadian a little bit more reserved. That wasn't the case earlier today, but you can see the Canadian a little bit sharper with our energy. See a little bit more tighter, more compact. So you're going to lose a little bit less here. You're going to be able to pull up more. So that, again, that's what I'm looking at here. The orientation of our upper level energy here at 500, and then also, the three main things I'm looking at is one, first, our upper level energy profile, and they're all connected, and how they work together. Two, not in order of importance necessarily, just the three things I'm looking at kind of that I think are most important, not in order. Strength, location of our southeast ridge, how strong. Models can definitely tend to under amplify the southeast ridge at times for sure. And it wouldn't be shocking if the GFS was a little bit too progressive and shearing out a little bit too much right now. Again, it's an inherent bias in the model, so it's not unexpected. And then three, it's almost 3A, 3B. They kind of go hand in hand. Angle of this confluence piece, not necessarily how far it presses down. That does matter too, but the angle of our confluence. If this is angled with a little bit more of a vertical axis, meaning this confluence, if this is a little bit more horizontal, then this is going to press on the storm from here, allow it to get out ahead, and that you could still definitely get a snowstorm that way, but you probably limit some of those higher ceiling scenarios that you maybe saw today. And if you're able to pull it too far north, it may not have enough time. You may pull in too much warm air if your southeast ridge is too strong as well. So there's still multiple different factors here in terms of the temperature profile, because you don't have cold air completely locked in for this system. It's not a guarantee. So that's why I look at this. If we had cold air locked in for this system, no matter what out ahead and during the duration, I would be, it's a little bit, it's definitely unique setup here with our temperature, and we can slide to 850s to kind of get some perspective. You see cold air out ahead of this system, and then kind of, and then comes in while the system is there as well. So you can see there it's a little bit unique situation here where cold air is not completely locked in with the system, but could be depending on the timing. So a little bit of a unique here in the Canadian at this point. A little bit, again, similar to the GFS in terms of the timing, kind of almost gets caught in between. You can see, look at the difference from 12Z to OZ. Completely different timing, and kind of gets left behind a little bit more. If you keep leaving that behind, you can see how your height lines are a little bit higher, and there's not as much confluence pressure, pressing down here. This is going to have an opportunity to rise at this point, and then you're going to be able to wrap in. You're not going to shear out as much convection, and you will wrap more into the system. So a stronger vort, you have to remember too, will wrap in. Will have a tighter wrap, and there will be more dynamically driven cold air with this system. So it's going to be able to produce heavier precip, more precip, and it will be able to kind of wrap more colder air into the system. It will also pull up a little bit more warmer air as well. So that's kind of like all hand in hand, because a stronger southeast ridge can kind of do that as well. A little bit further west location of our upper level, of our upper level low, will be able to have less press potentially of the confluence, the angle of critical, and one thing that if we do have a sharper, more vertical axis in terms of our angle of the confluence, what that will do is it will lock in more cold air out ahead of this system as well. So that's one thing to kind of note as well. So, I don't have a great feel in terms of specifics yet, but I just want to lay the groundwork for what I'm looking at currently. and then start to get a better feel over the next couple days here where I think this might end up. I have not looked at the ensembles yet, but we can kind of take a peek at where models have been kind of struggling lately with not, well, they struggle in general, but I'm talking about loading the models on all the websites lately have been struggling significantly, at least for me. I don't know about everybody else, but definitely have had some trouble with that lately. You can see the GFS ensemble members, some show, some don't. There's some members that show some pretty big hits here with this. As you can see, there's some you can see a lot of those bigger hits are on the latter time frame. So they're a little bit later. It means it's consolidated more. So a weaker system, some of those lighter snows you see um, are in the earlier time frame. So they're more Friday, Saturday versus being, more Saturday, Sunday. So that's kind of the difference with that system. So that's why the timing is definitely not locked in yet either. But there is definitely some significant potential, and I think you kind of saw that highlighted by some of those. Regardless of unrealistic or realistic, you did see some of that potential highlighted. From some of the Canadian runs and some of those GFS runs over the past day or so. And so it gives you a little bit of perspective going on there. Let's see, are the Canadian ensembles loading yet? They are, and they load out pretty quick. So we'll be able to look at those in a second as well. But we'll slide back here to see. We got the Euro loading out. Should be loading out now. Just started. So we'll be able to peep what's going on under the hood of the Euro as well. But again, you get a little bit. Let's see. They're loading out. Canadian ensembles are loading out fast, but that's the general time frame, or the general idea. Again, the time frame is Friday to Sunday, depending on when exactly. Again, there's a few different, it's a little complicated. Where I'm like, our upper level energy is a shore, so that helps for sure, limiting some of those track problems that we usually have where we're like, oh, our energy is not ashore yet. In this case, our upper level energy is ashore, so we do have that. Here's one other thing I'm watching as well is, we saw some model runs over the past couple days do this. There is big dive of upper level energy comes in behind the system. If this does slide further back more, there is potential for some stream interaction here as well. So I would keep an eye on that, and that would, definitely play a part if we were to see some of those solutions hold back more, and that could allow that system to be able to amplify a little bit more and be able to get pulled further north potentially. I'm trying to see what. I feel like we had the Canadian show that at some point. Did we? Yes. You see that it gets pulled further north underneath the system a little bit. You see that. So if we were to see this to get pulled further, further, you can see that confluence. This is kind of what I'm talking about here. Peep the difference in the confluence. There's your confluence from the OZ Canadian last night, and then here is tonight's. See the difference in the confluence right there? Pressing down way more. So now we have colder solutions in play potentially, but I would love to see the angle of the confluence shift a little bit as well. I would love to see us get a little bit more vertical here. Again, it would put us more cold air out ahead of the system initially, which would be fantastic. And it would also allow us to be able to wrap more convection into the system as well. So that's kind of what you'd be trying to go for there if you're trying to get a snowstorm out of this system. I would favor Northeast New England again with this system. This could be Mid-Atlantic. Some could be Northern Mid-Atlantic. I don't think this is more Virginia or Southern Delmarva, but we could get Northern Maryland, Northern Delmarva involved here potentially. But I would favor this kind of setup. To me, it's not the same as January 6th, although there are some similarities. That the kind of what I was going to say is the similarities here are Walmart December 2020 combined with January 6th and February 14th of last year is kind of if you were to combine all three into a system, kind of a little in terms of the setup in the upper level energy profile, maybe not quite temperature setup. Maybe we'll have to add another one into that to give a little bit better of an idea there. But that's kind of a general mix of the a combination of what we got cooking in terms of if I were to say analogs for the storm. And I wonder if the SIPs analogs came out, KIPs, whatever you call them, came out as well as peeping those. The KIPs analogs were pretty well juiced at 18Z. I peeped those earlier today, so those were pretty interesting in terms of KIPs analogs does the top. We can search it. Come on now, there you go. I doubt they already have OZ in. Oh man, these things load quickly. They already got OZ in here, man. So this will be out in a second, but this St. Louis website here does the analogs for snowfall, median snowfall from the top 15 analogs from systems, and they pull it. So it's always interesting to see what gets pulled up there, and kind of give you a good perspective of what kind of event you may be dealing with to kind of navigate some of the model noise here. But this, I can't. I'd be kind of my duty to kind of show what happened here with this system. That was one of the most gorgeous runs, man. The GFS is loving to give us some medium range bombs this year, that's for sure. That was one of the most gorgeous freaking runs that I've seen yet this year, man. See, strong enough southeast ridge to kind of roll the system up, and then good enough of a press at the same time. Good enough high pressure in place to kind of lock in your cold air. So that's kind of the thing too, is as that system can slide to OZ. So that's the thing. You have high pressure that moves in behind here. So you see that you got 10, 36, whatever high that comes in behind your system. It's using extra resources. Okay, let's take that off then. Just checking, making sure we're doing fine. So that's the thing. That's why I would kind of like to be able to hold the system back a little bit. We can hold. You're so close here. You actually kind of improvement and unimprovement here. You see how you held your energy back. You kind of did the same thing on the Canadian, where you held your energy back more, but you didn't be able to pull it far enough north to be able to pull in moisture. So that's kind of what I would like to go for, like I talked about. And if you do, right, at the moment, I can't say there's cold air automatically locked in completely. But what you do get is high pressure that moves in behind, and you get cold air to come in. See how look, your cold air comes in here. Boom, now you got cold air much more better locked in. So if we are able to hold this system a little bit again, but it's a little bit of a thread the needle too. You don't want to hold it back too much and over amplify this too much at the same time as well, because then you start looking at mixing concerns for a lot more people. This definitely could be more of a far interior storm at some point. See Euro AI a little bit further out ahead with this system. It's been kind of locked on to the general idea of it, but it has one of the faster solutions where the upper level energy kind of gets caught under the confluence and wrapped up with the confluence basically. And A very, very important distinction too. If it doesn't get wrapped up, then and it gets caught behind, again, allows that system to slow down potentially. But if you are caught in between, then you may suppress the system too much, not be able to wrap in enough moisture, basically not be able to get a good snowstorm. So it's there's still some complications in terms of specifics with this system, but it's definitely coming. So we don't need to talk about what whether or not it's coming. Somewhere's getting something that sounds so scientifically inclined. Something is definitely coming, but the question is where, and that's ultimately what we just don't know quite yet, or at least I don't. But I would favor Northeast uh, New England with the system as well. There will be cold air will be locked in better for either scenario that we were to see happen. There's just more opportunity for those for Northeast and New England, not a Mid Atlantic system at first glance. Because if it is Mid Atlantic, then it's probably also a lot more suppressed, and you're probably going to struggle to be able to get enough precip to be snow as well, or just enough precip in general if you share out your system too much. Yeah. That zoomed in a little bit better. I mean, I was talking zoom into the Mid Atlantic. I mean, I was using the. Is that a little bit better at least? Yeah, that should be a little bit better, I think. Sorry, I know you guys are on smaller screens. I have my nice setup here. So I have basically a 3 foot long screen monitor, so I can see I can see things very clearly. But sometimes I do fail to consider the viewers, which matter the most when I do this. So yeah, let's see what the Euros cooking compared to 18Z with the Clipper. Seems like it pulled it a little bit further north here on this run. Take a look at the P-type map to kind of see it, but a little bit, but a little bit better of a front end thump as well. A little bit better front end thump, and then whatever mess happens on the backside. Tough to say. So pretty decent run there. Yes, Mark France, senior, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming in right now as well. Where are you from, my man? Where are you from? Yeah, where's everybody from right now? Put down in the chat. Let's get some locale going here. That'd be pretty solid right there. Take a look at that. Pretty nice Euro run right there. Good solid 2 to 4, 2 to 5. That's kind of almost the specific area too I'm looking at. It's right here. Ocean County, New Jersey. Down there by Atlantic City. Been down there a few times before. Be a solid event too. Look at Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia's probably, because this thing's going to be strengthened in low pressure too, as it gets offshore especially. But Nova Scotia probably going to get a pretty good storm out of this. So yeah, so there's the Clipper. Unfortunately, Ocean County, New Jersey, not going to be able to get anything out of this on Wednesday. But here's what I'm curious too. Again, a little bit of IVT action here. A little bit of IV, just north of Atlantic City. Yeah, I'm curious what happens here. Very curious what happens here. CB19, my man, how we doing? I know you're from Boston. I know you're from Boston. I know as a Boston guy, you can't help but connect the similarities to watching the Chiefs today. It's like, and every time connect those similarities. All right, let's zoom out here. Let's see what the Euro's cooking here for down the line. All right. I need a dual Carter though, CB19. I need to see him in a Patriots uniform. Need Tennessee to take a quarterback here. All right. I like this. A little bit sharper. Just hold that energy. I would like to be a little bit sharper with the upper level energy though. I think we're going to see a lot of. I like how we're holding it back more. We're doing that. This is for right now. We'll see if we're going to work with a faster progressing system. Then, some of my thoughts will change a little bit in terms of specifics. But for the moment, in my opinion, watching this, I would like to be able to reserve this a little bit more and have this be a little bit tighter or better, a little bit more better wrapped and consolidated. So I know you guys. I don't like the Chiefs law. I know everyone felt, and I agree, Carter would be great. I feel like he'd be a good, solid pass rusher. More than solid. He'd be a freaking beast, but I get it. Again, but what I do like here, I do like we're backing the conflict. I do like backing our Clipper up a little bit. This is something I would like to do. I wouldn't mind digging this a little bit more. I wouldn't mind digging that a little bit more and raising our heights up here a little bit higher north. Allow this to be able to pull in more here. I don't want to lose too much out here to the east. I'm okay with raising heights a little bit. Again, we push more cold air ahead initially, and you're able to get a decent system here. So, sorry, Mark, I had to zoom out, but I do like to be able to see the whole picture. So, it's very, very helpful. The United States is a little bit quicker right now, so I don't mind doing that. I do like that. I do like how we're a little bit tighter. I do like that change. So far, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. You a fan? You a fan? Mm-hmm. Any Kendrick Lamar fans in the chat? NYC and play for which one? DeSantis. That looks good. Yeah, I mean, listen. Here's the thing with this system. I don't think enough people are talking about this quite yet. I don't think enough people are talking about this quite yet, and it's because of what they see on the P-type maps. I'm telling you, the P-type maps are, man, it's like TikTok, man. It's sorry, I don't got anything against TikTok, but man, people love it. People love it, and they're easy to look at. This weekend, yeah, I'll talk about NYC in a second. I just, man, I think it's always, I think 500 millibar Vort. I could probably track if you gave me 500 millibar, 700 millibar, and 850s. And you told me I could only pick three things. I'd probably take those three things. If you told me I could only take three things to track a snowstorm, I would never take a P-type map. I would never. I would probably take those three things. I would take 500, 700, and 850 temps. That's probably what I would take. All right. And so this is what I'm talking about. This is a really strong upper level energy. This is a really, really strong upper level energy. So I am um, very, very intrigued at the potential with this system. New York City is in play. New York City is in play, but I would not favor it. I would again favor north of New York City with this system. I think it could be in some of the same places for the Clipper that's coming through on Wednesday. I would kind of favor that for them as well. This system, however, however, yes, the euro has the euro has done fine this year relative to the other models. It does not mean it's still not, it's still not fantastic, but the euro has done definitely fine. So yeah, so this is what this is for me when I look at this at 500 millibar bore. I think it's a great. I think it's a really not. I'm not going to say great, but it's definitely a really intriguing look at 500 for sure. Just it's a strong piece, strong 500 volt to work with here. And it's going to be a matter, again, you can see on this run, it's still going to kind of get sheared out pretty well. So it kind of still gets caught in between here. You can see 18Z, OZ, but you can see the angle of the confluence. That makes a huge difference. So we're going to press down more cold air out ahead initially. And so if I had to guess, there'll probably be a little bit less rain on this system. And yes, it is. See the difference there on that? But again, still not perfectly timed here with the cold air. That's what I'm talking about. The cold air is, it's not perfectly locked in, but see that from OZ to 18Z, it's a massive change on the P-type map. Yeah, pretty big change. And that's expected in this far out. They're still 5-6 days out, roughly, maybe. So it's a little bit, and you can, again, these differences can drastically change. So I love, not love, but I like what we saw on the OZ guidance tonight with this system. Again, what I would like to do is, so sorry, I have to zoom out again, just a little bit. Angle of the confluence here. Continue to get this a little bit sharper, dive this down, allow more cold air to sink down out ahead. I wouldn't mind, I really don't mind us actually at least pushing, or you don't necessarily have to push it further north, but at least further west here. Allow our height lines to rise a little bit more so we can wrap more convection out, at least northward, versus allowing it to shear out as much to the east. And so I would love for a little bit of a tighter wrap on the system initially. A little bit slower of a progression, in my opinion, right now is what I would like to see. Again, you only want to do it too much to an extent. And, I think that could allow us to, to cash in here on a system, and again, it's not like you couldn't be able to get a front end thump, out of the system, somewhere like in here. It's not like you can't get a front end thump out ahead of the system, but I would favor. This would go all the way. I would favor this region right now more for the system. Just a higher margin for error. But that doesn't mean, some places, if this is more, this is more of a, mid-Atlantic to southern New England, then it's likely less, in my opinion, unless you were able to thread the needle on this being a little bit more reserved. Otherwise, I think you'd probably be more favored for, southern New England, you know, in central New England across the Northeast. Kind of not too far off from where the Clipper is. I think it kind of could be some tea leaves there potentially, where, down the line. But again, I don't have a super great feel. Not in my bag, so to say. Uh, if we were to really lingo it up there, but again, it's a strong upper level energy to work with, and when you have that, that's always an important thing, in my opinion. And just continue to keep, in my opinion, you want to keep backing this up. Keep backing this up. I want to press more at this system, but from a different angle. Out ahead. Press out ahead so we can prevent vorticity being lost out here, and we can wrap closer and tighter. And this doesn't necessarily mean the system has to pull so far northward again. Remember, it would be easier for it to do that, but it doesn't mean it'd be, especially if you don't have quite as strong of a southeast ridge present as well. So the strength of your southeast ridge will be a factor in that as well, on how much our vort will be able to sink or climb northward. So there's definitely multiple different factors that are going to be driving what's going on here with this system. There's world progression. There's OZ, 12Z. You can see 12-0 had that a little bit more reserved. There's your OZ0, 12Z. OZ last night. You can see OZ0 last night, way more reserved. So a little bit of a change in model progression, with the system completely. So if that's where we were 24 hours ago, and, 24 hours. That's where we were 24 hours ago. Now you're there. The system's, now here's your system. So, even though our system's come ashore here, you can see there's pretty still big, large scale changes. So that's kind of the, maybe still the frustrating part is we can say, hey, our system's ashore right now. Our system, our Clipper is actually not even over the U.S. yet, but our weekend system is. That's kind of the funny thing when you look at it like that. It's like, oh, weather. That's what makes weather so special and interesting. That our system we're tracking for this weekend is already over the U.S. lower 48, and our Clipper system is actually not even going to be over the U.S. until Tuesday. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm not favoring by any means, for this to be a large, massive snowstorm quite yet. But anytime I see a 500, anytime I see a 500 Vort signature like that, it definitely gets me intrigued. And so I think, some of the P-type maps can be deceiving in terms of how strong of the snow potential that we could see from this system. I think sometimes they can be a little deceiving in that manner. Let me go to the northeast, and we're going to go to maps, and we're going to go to Canadian Ensemble. So you can take a peep at the panels. I always like peeping the panels, and there's the zoom out once here, so I can see all the panels. Oh, still loading out. Still not quite there. can see some of the early members, but not all of them quite yet. All right. While we wait for those to talk, we can talk about going forward. You may have seen some of my posts on X, kind of debriefing some of this, but so there's going to be potentially some moderation in the pattern here, but maybe not as much as I mean, there's potential down the line for some moderation here, but I really think it's going to be hard to really work in as much warm air as some of you've seen on the ensembles look in the models, being able to drive up. It's just we've had consistent, strong Pacific ridging specifically and over the western US, and I think it's going to be rather difficult, just because you get troughing in the western US. It doesn't necessarily mean it gets cold. It needs to get warm in the northeast here. You have again, it'll depend on, we'll see the orientation of the polar vortex here. Forecasted to strengthen a little bit, but again, it's still, there'll still be potential for. I don't necessarily want the GFS long range operational to be my go-to here, but I'm okay. We can use 18Z. Fine with that. We'll use 12Z EPS, but right, you look at that and be, oh, it's the world ending, but I think you'll see models adjust in time, and I really think especially weeks 2 through 4 in February, I think could be pretty intriguing here. I'm not really, let's see, 18Z, 12Z, 06. So it seems like gaining confidence, obviously, trying to, in the general idea. So you might have a cutter mixed in possibly during this time, your first week of February, maybe. I'm still skeptical, though. I'm still skeptical. Cold air has been, this year has been strong and stuff, hard time. I think, that's where I kind of have to go against the models. Not, not a cutter's not always a bad thing too. Cutter can kind of sometimes set up the pattern here, but I'm just skeptical that we're going to see models be able, to be able to pull up as much warm air up the coast as you've seen in some of these model runs here down the line here. Like, I'd be incredibly skeptical of this, 12Z EPS here, in 18Z Jeffs verifying quite like that. And sometimes the height line, can be a little bit deceiving as well. So wouldn't take a lot for this to be a little bit different of a setup, especially when you're talking 200-300 plus hours out. It's a lot of model runs still to come. So, I think it's definitely pretty muddied. After this weekend, it's pretty muddy in terms of specifics. So that second week of February, but I especially think the back half of February. I think that is going to allow some opportunities. Again, I would definitely think Northeast New England will have more opportunities here. I'm not saying the Mid Atlantic doesn't. Again, for me, I consider Jersey, PA more Northeast as well. Especially. I can zoom in here then. For me, it's like, I consider like basically like this Northeast. Kind of how I do it. Basically like almost Philly northward. I throw Philly in there as a Northeast. Sometimes Mid Atlantic if I feel like it, but no, I just So I think there's going to be opportunities here for New England Northeast down the line. Just might have to be a little bit patient, but I would really the lack of Pacific and Western blocking, I would be pretty skeptical of seeing that take place like quite like that. It's fine, and you can see it still has it, the Alaska blocking, and still see that present. This necessarily wouldn't be too bad of a look here, actually, down the line. This 12Z EPS. There's your ridging, Atlantic ridging, cold air moving over the central U.S. So that's really actually not too bad of a look way down the line, but is that a 12Z? But, you know, the specifics. That has a battle zone overrunning setup look. Yeah, it's got, I don't know, because it does, uh, you know, it's definitely a look where we're going to be able, you know, for me, it's always pretty big. I love focusing on the, you know, how can we create, you know, significant thermal gradients, and that's definitely one way. You know, Atlantic ridging with cold air filtering down the central U.S. is definitely a recipe to be able to get, you know, some significant storms. And I think models are having a tough time with that right now. EPO crashes negative by 7th of February. So EPO, for those that don't know, is just a teleconnection. My man Mark here is referring to in the chat. And yeah, again, I really think models have not been able to get a good handle here, and you've seen models consistently correct here to underestimate the press of our cold air from up here, right? This is where our cold air always comes from, from the Arctic. Underestimating often the press of our cold air. We saw that last time. Again, every setup is every reload to a pattern is always different. So this will be another reload here. So small period of moderation here, but I think weeks 2 through 4 February could be that's kind of what I'm going to stick with until I have enough to suggest kind of otherwise. But that's kind of what I'm kind of going with here, and maybe even into first week of March as well. Potentially, it's we fly through those MJO phases. Again, MJO Met and Julian oscillation is phases. You know, we look at phases. You know, 8, 1, and 2 typically as the most favorable for associated with cold and precipitation in the eastern U.S. And you know, that's the thing here is we've been through those favorable phases here in early January. Just we suppressed a lot of our setups here. We saw the Gulf Coast be able to get a snowstorm right after we did, and then things kind of, you know, calmed down, and now we'll have a chance here. You know, just because the Madden-Julian oscillation isn't favorable, you know, sometimes can get, you know, you can very easily get a big snowstorm without the Madden-Julian oscillation in a favorable phase. But you know, we do fly through the unfavorable phases, and that definitely helps. We go through phases 4, 5, 6, 7 here, and we're able to go through those phases pretty quickly, and then we'll be able to probably move through 8, 1, 2 again as we get to mid-February. And I'll be curious to see the orientation of the polar vortex and how we play out there as well. If we're able to get another polar vortex, a solid stretching event, which, you know, that's something models would definitely struggle with in the longer range. Typically, don't pick up those more until the medium range. Then that would definitely change change things as well, for sure, in terms of, like we're talking about, cold air pressing down, which is something models have underestimated here for God knows how many weeks now. It's been a good amount. Keep those Canadian panels again. Oh no, not there. There we go. There's a stretching event. I've seen some models kind of further east. This is actually not. This is not too bad. This may not. This could end up theoretically. Theoretically, this is where Western troughing could kind of maybe not necessarily be a bad thing here if you were to be able to drop in your upper level energy further west. Now let's hear. If you were to have a polar vortex stretching event, that'd be further east. You would lock in cold air out ahead. You would lock in cold air out ahead for systems. And this would work kind of as your high pressure. And so that's kind of how you would get some sort of it could be some kind of CAD like setup or overrunning event theoretically. Oh, look at that! Yeah. You can kind of see that there on the Canadian. Show that. So that's why I'm saying any moderation in the pattern here, I'd be skeptical to fully be able quite buy into some of the warmth that we've seen on some of these model runs here. See, that'd be a full-on cutter, but then followed by a nice little storm after that for sure. There's your long range GFS. There's your long range GFS bomb of the night. Little fun action there on hour 360. But yeah, so I look at this and I really think that once we start after this would be maybe the only time frame where there could be like a cutter system right here. This would maybe be the only time frame. Somewhere around that first full week of February, somewhere in this time frame, maybe. That's really the only time. After that, I think we turn into a very favorable pattern potentially for snow specifically. Maybe not as cold as we've been, but I think New England, especially in the Northeast, I think like again north of the Mid Atlantic specifically, and again I would say like north of DC here, and specifically north of New York City. I think there's a really good opportunity here with to be able to get or have a good month snowfall wise. You might be able to moderate temperatures a little bit more in between at times, but in terms of overall snowfall, I think we'll be able to do better than we have so far in January. And January hasn't even been terrible. It's just we've had several snow events. It's just they just haven't provided a lot, and so that's why the snowpack has stuck around pretty well. But it hasn't been a crazy snowpack. So hopefully we can get a few inches here that can kind of help re-solidify the snowpack. If we were to overperform and get 4 or 5 from the Clipper, that would always. I think we have 3 or 4 inches on average snowpack still, at least here. We've probably melted like a couple. snowpack after was fantastic. It was like 6 to almost 7 inches, the snowpack after the last system. And so it's like probably 3 to 5 is probably the snowpack right now. So if we were to get like 5 inches, we could get that snowpack back up to like 8 or something maybe. But be if I'm being very generous, but and we'll see here. Maybe it's going to stick around after too, after this Clipper. So for anybody that does see snow from the Clipper on Wednesday, you are going to be able to see the snow stick around. Maybe only have one kind of average to above average day. But especially the day after, Thursday is going to be an ice box. It'll be, I mean, Tuesday through Thursday will be pretty cold. New York City southward will probably be closer to freezing on Wednesday, but it will be an ice box. Um, and then yeah, this is like I think like this is kind of that like that once we start like it's symbolic. This hour 3:42, I could give two you know what's about the a P type map, but it just coincidentally it kind of this once we start that second full week of February, I think somewhere around then is when I think things could kick off. And we often sometimes see people in the West battle, get all caught up. You had your winter, but you could still have a strong Alaskan block like you see here, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. And I think maybe models could be underestimating some of our height blocking out here, which wouldn't be a terrible thing, especially if we had Atlantic ridging. But this is definitely. I don't care about the operation too much. How far is the ensemble? Oh, Ozzy's 270. There we go. Side. A little bit of adjustment there. I don't know. I feel like this is still very. I think models are really struggling beyond like ensembles right now are struggling beyond 7, 8 days. I feel like it's always, try to show something a little bit different and then overcorrect closer to what the same theme is. And so, like, I think that's kind of what we do. And it's that variation. I don't think we do a complete all 180 here. It's very hard to kick the same themes out once you start getting caught in a pattern, and we've really seen it since December. December really set the stage for everything else. Once you kind of get caught in something, it is very hard to get out of it. And so you do different variations, different reloads, but you're seeing models here trying to maybe do a little bit too much of a 180 from where we've been. Keep some of those same factors, but switch it up a little bit. And I just think they might be struggling a little bit, and we'll see some overcorrections with that as we get closer down the line here. But just that's why you just let models kind of do their thing. We were looking at this system here. It wasn't too long ago that this weekend system, was supposed to be a all-out cutter. It wasn't too long ago. This was an all out cutter. Just like a couple days ago. That's kind of what models were trying to do. And I was trying to be like, hey, so settle down here. Settle down. I don't think again, I'm not some special. I'm definitely not some special. I just based on what I've seen so far, this is just my opinion. These are my thoughts. Again, especially long range. I am definitely not your go-to long range genius, but I really think that this is going to be able to this is not going to be able to moderate and do as much of a 180 as you saw some of these runs here do over the past few days. And so that's why I'm saying I think there's going to be some moderation. There could maybe be one cutter, but you're not going to see here like two, three cutters in like a couple weeks of warmth and torch here. I think that's way too far fetched in my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I would be very surprised if we were to do that. So let me play out this. I don't mind taking a peep here at this whole Euro operational run. See if we saw some fun. See if we saw some fun. Maybe something else to keep an eye on the Monday after. If we do separate the streams, that would be completely different. That storm. So that's why again why it's messy for models right now, because switch up the orientation of one storm and that can affect the next one. This little PV stretch there as well on the Euro. So well, you had a single cutter on this Euro run. Yeah, it's not really a cutter. It's really more. It's almost more clipper-like. There's your fun P-type map walkthrough right there, and I can't really tell you to make anything too much of this, but always fun to peep. I always like playing through the runs. I'll always like play through the whole run. No, Euro AI. Euro AI doesn't come out for a couple hours. Did we peep? I don't think we fully viewed out the Jeffs. I think we got close. See, the later ones have the bigger snowfall outputs. And they're not necessarily all way far north in the northern New England. You can see there's a lot of New York City northward solution. You can get a mid-Atlantic one on a later one as well. You can see those later ones that come through. There's some pretty big snowfall numbers there. Well, that's why I'm pretty intrigued. It would turn into a more Sunday. It would turn into more of a Sunday, maybe even Sunday night system. If that's the case. As a clipper general. Here again, it's not going to be a lot of liquid too with the clipper. So at least definitely in the first part. So it will definitely be ratio driven. So and could be kind of a longer duration, but just like so light over the course of the event. I'll always have fun looking at these down the line. Make the 12Z great again. Come on now. I think that's because the 12Z was the one with all of our big hits there. Yeah. Go to the analogs. That's what I wanted to. to, oh, there we go. There's the thing. Zoom, no, zoom that thing. There we go. Can I zoom it more? All right, we can do that, I guess. Whoa, 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 whoa. Come back. There you go. There's your median snowfall there. Hour 120. What does the hour 144 look like? Still there, so I guess it's the multi-day combination. Get a little bit of an idea though. Pretty solid. 4 to 8 inch mean there. So this is the top 15 analogs here it takes. You can look up KIPS, SIPs, whatever the heck you want to call it, doesn't matter. Analogs through St. Louis University, and you can go and always look at the GFS through the GFS model. It gives you all the best analogs. So it's versus just being like, oh, it's the GFS model. It's like it's not going to be so crazy different versus the Euro and the Canadian, right? We're starting to get a better idea on the general idea, and so it's kind of based on past events. What are the best analogs in? So it gives you a little bit, and it couldn't really have drawn it up any better. The analog works perfect in terms of my thoughts for this system. Really couldn't have drawn it up any better. This is exactly where I would look at to be favored for this system over the weekend. Exactly where I would look. So does this include this? No, it doesn't. Okay. Doesn't include the clipper. Separate. Okay. Yeah, it gives you a little perspective there. So you can add that onto it technically. Slide back. Euro ensemble, where are you at? Oh, damn, Euro ensemble, freaking flying. Are the panels though? Please tell me the panels are. Come on, panels. Ugh, the panels aren't even out yet. How can you be 200 hours out with the? Ugh. Sorry, we don't need that energy, but it's just man, it's like ow. I don't get models, man. I don't know if it's Weather Bell or the models themselves, but been having some problems lately. You can try to use 500. I see that same idea as the operational. They tend to stick roughly the same. You can kind of get that idea of a little bit higher heights out here, a little bit sharper with the confluence out ahead, a little bit more consensus too. You can see the brighter the colors, the more agreements agreement there is between the ensemble members, right? We have all these individual ensemble members, and they're agreeing on, or more models agreeing on this run, that the general idea where 500 millibar will be in. Kind of the whole general, anywhere you really see gray is somewhere where, there's highlighted, possibility of the orientation of 500 millibar Vort being. So just gives you a good perspective. Man, how are the panels not out yet? I can't believe that. Yeah, that's fine. It's, oh, and I never did. I like to hold myself accountable. We went over it on I posted it on X, but I never did go over my snowfall map grade. Let's see, and my Ferrari here is showing the stronger negative EPO, like my man Mark was talking about earlier. But what was I gonna show you? It's all right. Well, I know what I was gonna show you, but or can I do it through here? Highlights. Highlights is just like my pinned tweets. So here's my snow map from the last storm. And since I wanted to stream that, we did not stream after since. So I was like, I always like making sure I let you all. I don't like being. I hate being one of those people that makes the snow map. For me personally, I don't hate other people that don't. I really don't. I really don't hate really too many really too many people on here. I don't have a reason to. Everybody is on here because they like the weather. I like the weather. I have no reason to hate your guts. A lot of people like to make enemies on here. Listen, the weather community is big, but it's not as big as you think to be able to make as many enemies as many sometimes do. And so here was my snow map. I went back and forth between 5 to 10 and 6 to 12. I was, oh, man, I just watch a little bit less QPF on some of the O6C guidance. I was looking at real-time analysis. Basically, what I was doing is trying to look at real-time analysis, compare it to models, and be able. I was going back and forth, and I was like, no, that we're definitely not going higher than 6 to 12. But I did, and it didn't verify horribly, but not great. It was more so of a 5 to. It was more so of a 5 to 9 than a 6 to 12. And there were a good amount of 6, 7s, 8s, and I think even some couple 9s throughout the area, but just did not have enough. And this was I'm reviewing my snowfall map from the last storm, and just were not enough. 8, 9s, and 10s at least. For that to verify, and there were 0 12 plus totals. So I couldn't really give myself too much. This area was more 2 to 5, 3 to 6 versus 4 to 8. And there again, there were a lot of 3s, 4s, and 5s. And then this area, I did well in Eastern PA. I did well in across this area out here. We definitely had a good handle on that. Really, we definitely did Um, we definitely did pretty solid in this area here for sure. Northern Jersey, we did pretty. It was pretty much 3-7, pretty much. Four. It was pretty. It was four. It was good 4 to 8 across that area, and then we saw in New York City. It was I think 3 to 4 inches in New York City, where the totals out of there, I think, or 3 to 5 around this whole New York City metro versus 4 to 8. Um, so close, again, close to hitting that lower end range. Just like it's not like a lot of people were just under some of the ranges I had, but they were so close that I tried not to beat myself up too much, even though I thought we'd get a little bit better consolidation of the banding during the brunt of the period, and then again, this included the backside. So I wasn't too worried about the backside being able to help and make sure those totals came through, but definitely I got 1 point. Yeah, I wasn't too big on Southern Jersey with this storm. I did think a little bit more than 1.5 inches. Uh, but yeah, well, I mean, a little bit further, Jersey. I was not as high. I specifically, again, I cut off the map here. So Southern, I know I can just say that now because it was because it's in due time. But I was really for the duration of the storm, Delmarva in far southern Jersey, and you can see it like in the threat maps I had to. I was a little bit less bullish there. It was more of a coding to 1 to 3 for far southern Jersey and Delmarva. But I was thinking, central parts of southeastern Jersey didn't would be able to get at least 2 3 at least 2 to 3 inches. And there was a good amount, especially in this year. We had a good amount of like 2 to 5s. But again, so I couldn't really give myself too high of a grade. So low end B minus was the grade. So not a great snow map, but not terrible. And we did have a lot of totals, verify in the ranges, but it was more so low end range. And so I really couldn't give myself too much credit for that. Went back and forth, C plus, B minus, but I try to be harder with myself on these because, again, I will say this is a large area to forecast for. This is it is a large area to forecast for. I mean, Maine, Northern Maryland, Northern Delaware, pretty much all of Jersey, almost besides the far southern part, much of Pennsylvania, really just besides Pittsburgh and Erie, much of upstate New York, besides Buffalo, and all of New England. So it is a lot to be able to forecast and account for. But I know just a general idea is pretty much I'm never going to be able to nail one of these that great because of such a large forecasting area. But I try to do my best to at least be close to the general idea. And we had the right idea, and I did pick up on the back edge snow that came through. So it was well forecasted from the beginning, even before guidance was really getting on it. So I tried to do what I could to give you guys a decent forecast, but well highlighted the details, the specifics of it, obviously being more of a moderate to heavy snow event, but hey, not bad. Low didn't really coalesce fast enough. The timing and the connection, so close. It was so close to so very close, and you could see it. The band set up, the banding that set up here from Long Island, and you could see it all started all the way back in Philly. That batch that got going back here in Philly and South Jersey, then you saw it move towards New York City. If you saw that connection just a little bit earlier between the boundary and the system, you would have been able to pull in a little bit more moisture early on. You would have dry slotted less in Southeast Jersey as well. And there would have been more to the back edge to that like kind of that lull in between wouldn't have been as prominent, and you would have been able to wrap in a little bit more moisture, consolidate some of your dynamics a little bit better. And you saw that band that went across from Long Island here into across Connecticut, move through, and the move through across here into and then southeastern Mass that hammered. We saw 2 to 3 inch per hour rates actually, but it was only for about 90 minutes, so it was very fast. And you saw it was basically 2 to 3 hours of 1 to 3 inch per hour rates across this area. And so what you would have done is you would have consolidated dynamics, would have expanded a little bit further some of this banding here. You probably would have wrapped in your 700 banding a little bit tighter as well, would have seen this less spread out, would have wrapped up your dynamics a little bit better. You would have saw a little bit heavier precipitation. Um, you just would have saw a little bit more snow overall, just a little bit, and that's kind of, I was close, but just it's not close enough. The general idea was there, the specifics just off. We were in winter weather advisory for 3 to 5. Don't beat yourself up. Winter has been disjointed and precip starved around here. Yes. Um, Not a ton of precip, right? Yeah, think about a lot of the snow events that have happened. Even towards my neck of the woods up here, they've been a lot of 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 3 to 5 inch events up here. They've been very high ratio snows, right? Colder, Arctic dust, kind of call it, that moves through, and it can make it challenging. Uh, when you're talking about that, it can make it challenging really get those big winter storms when you're so suppressed, not suppressed necessarily, but when your cold air is pressing down so much, right? It makes any, and we didn't have Atlantic ridging for a good period of time in the beginning of this pattern, so it's made it difficult to be able to get moisture to ride up the coast, wrap in, and consolidate for a big old winter storm, which you haven't had yet. I think that's going to change in February. I think that is going to change in February some. So that's kind of my thinking of us going forward here is we change the tune, but we're not going to be able, it's basically going to be a different season of the same movie, right? Growth, evolution, change, show you a different aspect. Maybe or a different season for the same core of players, right? Every season has a different chapter, but if you have that same core of players, there's still going to be some similarities that carry over to the next year. And so that's kind of the thinking I have is, models are trying to kind of do too much of a 180 maybe going forward, and I think we carry some of those similarities forward, but with a little bit of a twist, so to say, going forward. Cody Dustins, yeah. So listen, the events we've done well with. We really haven't busted. Even this, it wasn't too much of, at least for me specifically and around the area. Springfield and some of the Connecticut Valley busted a little bit with this, but our general area really hasn't busted on too many storms. In fact, we've done well. A lot of those 1 to 3 inch events, we come out and we're finishing with 3, 4, 5 inches of snow. So we've stacked up the seasonal still to be below average, but we're not so below average that you get a couple winter storms here and all of a sudden now you're average above average. So it's not, again, also South Jersey, it's a really tough place for winter, man. Really tough place. A lot of times you just miss out on some of those like southern storms and mid-Atlantic. And then you miss out on like the New York City to New England specials as well. So that can definitely be a challenging place that probably would make you pull your hair out a little bit down there for sure. Just always having to worry about the rain snow line as much as you do down there. Ideas to bring the deep troughs further north instead of to the Gulf Coast. Yeah, I mean more prominent southeast Atlantic ridging. Um, present here. Just it's gonna make it tougher for those systems to be able to, I think, be as suppressed as we've seen here. Yeah, I can't imagine, Mark. That has to be I would probably pull my hair out a little bit. It makes you really cherish the ones you do get. So I think Blizzard of 2022 was a really good one. I think 2021. I think the best of it was further north, but I think you still did well in that storm. I could be wrong. Actually, no. No, I think you might have got screwed on the 2021 storm. I could be wrong. But I think you still did all right that winter. 2020, I know that storm, you did not do great in that. I remember that one. I was just talking about it earlier today. Originally, it looked like a few days out, this was going to be, oh, that's two. It looked like in the 2020 blizzard, it was going to be right here. That's where it looked like, and it still would have gotten very well hit here. And it looked like this was going to be it right here. This band was going to come slide area. Sure enough, draw it for here. That's where it went. So it's always fun tracking some of those. Wasn't a super strong high pressure, even though we had good cold air in place. 2020. We had our share of blizzard. Yes, Boxing Day is definitely one that stands out. Back in 2010, 05. Did 05? I forget if Jersey made out well on a blizzard of 05, but blizzard of 2015 just missed. I think Jersey Coast still got some, but definitely just missed on that. Blizzard of 2016, obviously, Jersey did pretty well, even though I remember our man Mike Trout in Vineland. It was his graciousness to the weather community is amazing, by the way. Super nice, super lucky. I don't know why he wanted to talk to me at some point about some of this stuff, but couldn't say enough nice things about the interactions I had with him online. He was fantastic. But remember him reporting live from the 2016 one down there in Vineland. So I don't think they came out with a ton. Wasn't there some mixing by Delmarva in the 2016 one? With sleet, maybe? I forget. They did all right here, but yeah, I did okay with this map. 2018, yes, 2018 you did do fine there. 2018 was a great. I went back and looked at some of those 2018 ones recently, specifically March 7th, March 8th, 2018. That was a good stretch for me too, specifically. I know our man Vermont Mitch up here was racking it up. I think the Berks Hudson Valley made out best there. I think there was one like March 1st or March 2nd, March 3rd or whatever that dumped. I think they like busted in this area or something. And it was like a wet snow, a classic March. And then all of a sudden, man, turn the clock up, turn the heat up, whatever you want to call it. And had like a 15 to 18 inch storm, like no, more than that. I think 17 or 18 inches. And then we had like a 19, 20 inch storm right after that as well. And then it looked like we were going to get another one. I think you got out with maybe something, maybe not, but I thought we were going to get like another 8 to 12er. But then that one kind of busted. So I don't know if we even got more than a couple inches. Yeah, we got spoiled, man. We've been 2010 to 2022. We got absolutely spoiled. We got so spoiled. I don't think enough people realize how spoiled we got. Even in the crappy winters we had during that stretch, we got spoiled. Even at least here specifically, we were able We had a Blockbuster every winter. I mean, I still had a Blockbuster last winter. Um, 2023 was actually my first winter without a Blockbuster in a long, long time. Long, long time. That was wild. 2018 spring, March 21st snowstorm. I think that might have been the one I was talking about. Yeah, that one I think was supposed to come up this way, but went way south. See, I want to peep the EPs here, see if that came out. Yeah, I mean, we've had some really great winters. I mean, I think in my opinion, we have been spoiled beyond. Yeah, I mean, you see the 2020 averages, the way those went up during that span. I mean, from here, where I live by Worcester, so Worcester went up, I think, like 59 point something inches to, like 72. I think it went up. It went up like at like a ton in Worcester. So yeah, it went up by like 10, 12 inches of snow. So that just gives you some, just those 10 years, an inch per year, basically. Let's see if we got panels. All right. Well, they just came out all at once. Yeah, we have been. Oh, okay. Went from hour 36 to 360. That's just wonderful. Yeah, but I mean, this was the anniversary, 2015. Nothing will top that. Nothing will top that for me. Let me play that actually. I don't have to worry about getting copyrighted for this. So this one, man, that even gets everybody will able to see where home is for me. So for me, I live like in a unique spot where like I can get in on the Eastern Mass specials and I can get in on the interior specials. So it tends to work out, it tends to work out pretty well. So sometimes I get caught in between a lot of times where I at least get something, but there's the specials that are specifically only far Eastern Mass, and then there's the far interior ones where like Northern Mass makes out. But I mean, take a look here. I mean, I mean, you can see why now. Like this is a painful storm to try to kind of wait and see how this turns out when all of your action is coming from offshore. That was like March 13th, 2018 as well, where pretty much all your action is coming from offshore basically, and you're just waiting to see where that band is going to set up, just like January 31st, 2022. Even small events, February, March 2021. Yes. For those turned in the February 2021 events those turned into really golden there. We had a really nice one February 2021. It was right along the Jersey Shore, inland busted. 2015, that band still made it. 2022, I remember that too. 2022, the reason why it still worked out in South Jersey is the double barrel orientation. That double barrel orientation to low still allowed for precip transport to get along here. And so it kind of worked like this and then like that. So it kind of left areas out in between here. Kind of didn't work out so well, but I ended up getting an interior band on 2022 one that absolutely saved me completely. But again, I keep replaying this because I keep talking over that. But you can see offshore working here. Always one thing I notice here with these big blizzards is your band, wherever it starts to, your band will set up further west initially. It will always set up further west than what it is. So for a minute here, when the further, you want to be just to the east of where you see that band go initially when you get into those big ones. And then once you see it stop, then you'll see that your dynamics consolidate. And converge here. So then you're throwing out all this precip to meet your best dynamics here. See that those waves of convection coming offshore to just meet here and consolidate. And man, was this unbelievable. I remember this was a time where I wasn't still yet staying up all night for snowstorms. My interest was definitely a late bloomer for peaking interest. But I remember, went to bed and it couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 inches on the ground, and I woke up like 6, 7 hours later, and at like 7, and all of a sudden I went outside and there was like 19 inches of snow on the ground. And I was like, thank God. But you can see that band just, let me slow it down a little bit. Playback speed 0.5. Just, I mean, this is it. You really can't, for me, where I was specifically, there will never be a more perfect setup for me to be able to cash in on here. Yeah, this thing was a beast. This thing was a beast. I remember, like, I mean, there's nothing like 7 hours getting 15, 16 inches of snow. It's just, I mean, you can see right where I live right here, and that band, it couldn't have consolidated. You see it get right here, stop in its tracks, and then all of this moisture is just going to consolidate right here. So Long Island getting, a funny thing too with New York City was, so the band ended up did making it. That band that, everybody was trying to see if that band was going to make it. It did end up making it. But it was moving through fast and was kind of weaker. So when that did move through, you saw it. Like Central Park was like 8 or 9 inches. LaGuardia was about 11, 12 inches almost. And then, just to the east here, I mean, this you started seeing like 15, and then it was like 18, and then, like almost, I think 21 or 22 inches. And then, man, eastern end of Long Island was like all widespread, like 24 to 30 plus. And I mean, that's like the definition of your cutoff right there. And then Boston ended up getting, let's slide a little bit more. And then some of the best banding ended up converging, you can see, over Boston then. So as this kind of started to slide, kind of left over what's left of the deformation band. So this is very high ratio snow at this point too. So this is still very heavy snow. So this is easily 1 to 3 inches per hour still. This band, you can see it right offshore. Low pressure is like right here, very close offshore. Right by Nantucket. Huge coastal flooding, significant, like South Shore, Nantucket. Nantucket, like a lot of the island was like underwater. Not like completely, but like water was covering a lot of the island. That was one of the most historic storms for Nantucket in history. Like the whole island was completely without power. Like it was, and they still got like 12 to 18 inches of snow. Just a string of events here in 2015 that took place. That I can't believe it's been 10 years now. It was so cold. Yeah, I remember the piles of snow, man. They were above my house. I mean, those piles of snow. I mean, they were like 6, 7, 8 feet tall. I mean, and I mean, it's not like that, not like plow banks either. Just like from like shoveling the same small area right by it. It was unbelievable. Yeah, 78. Obviously, I was not born in 78, but 78 was another one where, just a widespread 2 to, 20 to 30 inches across a lot of this area, even back further west as well. But, and then within here, you saw some ridiculous, like 30 to 50 plus inch totals. And I think stalled. 78 stalled was the thing too. So it was like a complete stall almost. And it was just multiple days of significant coastal flooding. And that's what made 78 such a beast too, along with 2015. that element of coastal flooding, wind, and snow. I think those are, the three elements that, really make up, in terms of overall severity and impact. Those are huge for the overall impact of a storm. But snowed 3 days there in 78. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's just a long duration event. So I think completely stalled. We can up the resolution. I'm not. I was gonna say, come on now. That resolution is way better. Play that real 0.75. I mean, just this is historic, man. Just historic. That's the one thing you always noticed. It was the same with the blizzard of 2022 as well, where the band, the band obviously set up here, and initially that band made it out to me kind of initially. Then you see those best dynamics consolidate, and once I saw that band make it to me and kind of stop, I was like, yeah, all right, this thing's going to be setting up further east for me for the 22 one. And then I couldn't have been luckier with how that band shaped up. The same way it was almost to a T, the same way that you saw this interior band set up here in 2015. It was almost the same exact way. This one right here, since the double barrel look, you still had upper level energy left to come through, mid-level dynamics still to work through, and almost to a T. I mean, these happen quite frequently, actually. Just the orientation, where now you're getting this north-northeast flow here. You're getting moisture off the Atlantic and dynamics still moving through, either from east to west or southwest to northeast, still moving through. And then when that's the case, you see these like towards the end of a storm, after these bands that set up here, right over eastern, across central Mass typically. And I tend to get hit by these like every time. It's almost like to a T, like central Mass, this area. I'm not really in a great orographic lift spot, but there is definitely something that could probably be researched with the specifically towards ending band storms, ending bands, end of storm bands that come through and hit me. So the same with the last thing. I was like, it's highly saturated, very cold, not a ton of lift left, but still enough to kind of get the job done. And I don't know what it is about it. I'd definitely be on my expertise, but those they just hit like every time. Every time, like the Dodgers getting a free agent. You can count on it. It's right here. These things set up. And now this is what allowed Boston too to kind of still hit their totals. And it was just this thing really slowed down and stalled in 2015 for days. I drove west on Route 70 from 18 inches to 6 inches in Camden. Yeah, in the 2018 blizzard. January 2018. Are you talking about January 2018? Because we had February 2017, we had January 2018, we had multiple in March 2018. Yeah, there definitely is something about the Long Island, New England, Jersey, South Jersey connection here with some of these storms. You work all the way up from like here. There is definitely something to that. Yeah, 2018 January was a pretty good one as well. I just think it just kind of spoiled how many blockbusters during that time frame, man. Just amazing how many blockbusters we had from 2010 to 2022, man. Just so many blockbusters. I'm gonna go to hour 3:30. Skipping, so I can see the clipper, but I can't see the other things. Yeah, for the apps. My friends, Mark, you have a Twitter, right? Or am I thinking of a different one? I think you have on WX Twitter. You've been around for a while. Or am I mistaken? Am I thinking of another one? Or Junior, do you have a son maybe? Or is your son on Twitter? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. In January was frigid. February was record warmth. March was cold and snowy. 2018. I remember that too. I remember that. I remember going to the Basketball Hall of Fame and I was in shorts in Springfield. It was very warm. Yes, your son. That's so fun. It's such a small world. It's such a small world, man. Incredible. Oh yeah, all right, we're doing all right. Just trying to see we can get the. Want to see the panels upcoming here, but it's awesome. Father son connection for weather. I'm a first generation in my family, so you could not explain. I could not be able to explain to you growing up what made me so interested in all this stuff, but you're just drawn to it. You're just drawn. You're seeing the snow. You're drawn to it. All of a sudden, you're tagging news people, your snowfall reports for years, and then you know what? I'm gonna dive into this stuff. So unable to explain the fascination with all this stuff. But man, you have got a great log then of information. He does the weather thing. I've been into weather since 1975. That's unbelievable. Fantastic. Look at the general. Well, the same idea, not too different from 12Z. Pretty similar idea, but the long range ensembles, not too much to make of them. They just kind of do what they do. You just wait for them to correct. Basically, is what I do with the long range ensembles. Hour 60. You know you're getting older when you start complaining about your ensemble problems. First person first world problems. Yeah, I can't explain what got me so interested into this stuff. I really can't, but you just all of a sudden you're staying up late watching models, following storms, the maps too. I mean, the maps always. I don't know a single person that's not captivated by the maps with this stuff. Just there's something about it that lock. I mean, and then once you start having the ability to make your own forecast and that control, it's way too intoxicating. Way too much. With great power comes great responsibility. It's not a bad look there. It's not a bad look. Get that PV to start wobbling down a little bit. Polar vortex wobble. Easterly ridge. Just like you were talking about, Mark. Yeah. forces up the coast. I wish this stuff was available back in my childhood. I'm grateful to have this stuff. A lot of people complain about the models, but for me personally, I think like you just gotta keep using them as tools. Like you can't rely on them. I think the expectations are that the models are supposed to be 100%, and given I mean a lot of money does go into them, so I get the expectations, but man, the resources we have now for so much stuff, and how much information we're able to put into these models now is fantastic. Just a plethora of data that's available to use now. So, yeah, so I love scrolling through here and love seeing I just like looking at the individual members. I don't really care about the snow specifics of the snow on here, but I like being able to see the panels, the different spread, and I can kind of link up the general idea. But taking their sweet old time tonight. But yeah, and definitely love this stuff. No explanation why. I remember Harvey Leonard from here in Boston talking about the blizzard of 2015 or blizzard of '78, forecasting that. It was like the like models where I think he said were just starting and like you could barely rely on them. Like they're just you know you basically just had to do your own. It was so limited, the models and the data that started coming in. Started really evolving in the '80s and '90s, and then obviously in the 2000s and 2010s just got taken to a whole new level in terms of the evolution here of models. Not Victoria's Secret, the other kind, weather models. It's always a good joke you can use. All right, starting to roll. Almost there. Almost there. So close. Yeah, this is gives access for many people to be able to make forecasts now, which is great. Which is great. But you do see a lot now on social media that's so definitely a lot of younger kids learning, which is great. Um, but that dynamic between generations definitely gets uh, it's definitely a tricky dynamic with understanding that a lot of kids posting a lot of stuff are just learning, and it's like the snow maps and the stuff, like that's what gets them into it. And that excitement over that. So then like posting the snowfall maps, maybe even if like 200 hours out, it's them learning. So it's them, figuring this stuff out. And a lot of them, especially if they're interested over time, they're interested in. So that dynamic can be tricky sometimes on WX Twitter, but I watched and looked back on the '78 documentary. '76 to '79 had some stormy winters. Yeah, so Blizzard of '78 too. There was a massive one in the Midwest as well. There was a massive blizzard in the Midwest as well, I believe. In the Blizzard of '78. I love going back in history and looking at the biggest the commonalities between the biggest snowstorms, and always trying to put puzzle pieces together with that. And that was another significant one. So '78 had a couple of big blizzards that winter. '77 I think was a pretty good winter as well, if I believe. I believe '77 was a pretty good winter as well. All right, almost loaded here, just in time before the Mac runs out of steam here. But I believe I think Ohio was definitely. All right, if we load it out that fast, should get these panels cooking here. Come on. Almost there. Almost there. For me, it's like I'm going to look at these anyways after, so. Very cold 77. Ohio blizzard, yes. I think like Indiana, Michigan, Ohio. Those are ridiculous totals too, like 30, 50, 40, 50 inches of snow. Makes me wonder if some people did measure drifts back then, what the process was for measuring snow. Way more official nowadays. Reports get monitored a lot more significantly. Like now it's like they don't even like they don't a lot of times they don't even put reports in. They like pick and choose which ones they want to take for their snowfall reports that they take in. Even if you're a trained spotter, measure it accurately. They sometimes pick and choose. Yeah, Great Lakes, 1977. All right, seems like EPS is going to take so long, so I'll have to look in a little bit. I don't want my Mac to die, but I appreciate everybody coming on here. It was great talking with you as well, Mark Senior as well. Fantastic. I'm glad too that you could have found this here. Again, we love live streaming the weather, so we'll probably be able to do this here going forward a good amount here as we start getting active again. There's definitely I'm watching that storm, watching the storm this week, and we'll see how this kind of plays out here. And then we have a clipper that comes through on Wednesday, so that's the general idea. I appreciate everybody coming in tonight as well, and I will see you all tomorrow night likely. It's around the same time. We'll go tomorrow night probably.